A beautiful morning to you out there. It's a beautiful Monday morning, and the first day of the week, yes, we're ready. We're ready on this show, and we're ready to give life a try. Welcome to Good Morning Abuja, and it's always a pleasure to be here. I am Pamela Zamfara. Now, we have a lot lined up for your viewing pleasure. You know that the rainy season is here, right? And with the rainy season comes a lot of common illnesses during this season. Well, I have someone who will do justice to this topic only if you stay with us. And then Monday is also World Museum Day. What do you know about museums? How about the artists? In what light do we see artists in Nigeria? This and more will be coming your way on this show this morning. But you know, we always start off with a motivational talk. So let's go get motivated by Coach Maimuna Ummi Abdullahi.
Marriage can be a beautiful thing, and sometimes it can be hell on earth. Now, why I need to share this is because people think that when you tell people that sometimes it doesn't work, you're advocating divorce. No, I'm not. But sometimes marriages don't work. Not because one person is bad, not necessarily, and sometimes one person is really bad, to be honest. But sometimes two good people may not make a good marriage because they don't fit. So sometimes marriages don't work, and it's allowed. You're allowed to call it quit and find happiness elsewhere if that's the best thing you can do for yourself. You're supposed to work on it. Go into therapy, go to counseling to make it work. But sometimes even after all that, it just doesn't work, and it's okay. Divorce is not the end of the world. It can be traumatic, it can be painful, and people will get hurt, yeah. But people do find happiness after divorce. Sometimes the first marriage didn't work, and the second could work, the third could work, or even the fourth. Again, I'm not saying they were kind all over the place. That's not what I'm saying, no. All I'm saying is that sometimes you can find love after divorce. Sometimes you can find happiness after divorce. Divorce is not the end of the world. No, it's not. Sometimes it's the beginning of something beautiful. But what's most important? Make your marriage work. Do the best you can. Put in every effort you can to make it work. And when it doesn't, it's okay. You can move on.
Welcome back from that motivational talk. Thank you so much, Coach Maimuna Ummi, for motivating us so much to get up, and do something reasonable with our lives. We also know that when it's Monday, it's money making Monday, MMM. Yes, so we make money on Mondays too. Now let's go get some exercises done. Do well to join in.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Round 2. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Round 3. 3, 2, 1, go. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Many thanks for staying with us on Good Morning Abuja. Welcome back from our exercise segment. Hope you exercised a little. The importance of exercising can never be, overemphasized because we all know that it's good for our body. All right, let's go on this short break. When we come back, Good Morning Abuja continues. Stay with us.
for us to say our goodbyes on the program. As usual, I remain your host the most, Omoide with Erese, and I'll always be here with my bestie.
Je m'appelle Oguntayo Olaniposi Justina.
Speaking French now, from Jordan to Sweden.
Adios.
You're welcome to another wonderful episode of the number one program for women by the women daily life.
I learned it in art class in school, but they only taught us the basic of crocheting in school, and I was very interested and fascinated by it.
For the women, we are, let us talk from our own part of the world. We are a woman, there is so much expectation.
Since on that very lovely and light note, I want to thank you for being with us today. And tune in same time, same station next week on your number one station, NTA, Channel 5 of Regional. Today is Tuesday and the time is 7:30.
Welcome back from that break. It's still Good Morning Abuja, your favorite breakfast show. Now, what does peace mean to you? It means a lot of things to different people. For most people, though, it is health. When you have health, you can go anywhere, you can do anything at any time you want to. Yes, you can say health is the ultimate peace one should have. Now, I have someone from the health sector. I have a public health specialist and programs manager, FCT Emergency Medical Service and Ambulance System. That is made to be FEMSAS, that is abbreviated FEMSAS. And we will be talking about the daily peace, health matters, understanding common diseases in Nigeria. Now, I purposely didn't say his name so that you're like, who is coming? Who is it? All right, I have seated here Dr. Ozi Okonufwa. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And you look amazing. You look like an African man, like a Nigerian. I like it.
I had to match your vibe.
All right, thank you, sir. So we're talking about common diseases in Nigeria, but because you are, I'm seeing FCT Emergency Medical Services here, and I'm seeing ambulance system. Can you tell us what that is? Because when we hardly see ambulances on the roads of Nigeria, and when we see, we're like, oh, it must be an emergency. Maybe someone dead is in the, just explain to us what that is, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. The FCT Emergency Medical Service and Ambulance System is an initiative that is orchestrated by the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare to render quick response to emergency medical needs of Nigerians across the length and breadth of Nigeria. The FCT has, its own arm, whereas other states also run the same service. Now, interestingly, ambulance service is one of the key components of healthcare delivery globally, and Nigeria is just beginning to key into that initiative. So what we do basically is to respond to medical emergencies across the FCT, regardless of the kind of emergency. And interesting part of it is that what the FCT provides under this scheme, the residents of the FCT are not expected to pay a dime once they call an ambulance. There are dedicated numbers that we're expected to call. And once you put a call across to those lines, an ambulance will be dispatched to your location, and then you'll be conveyed to the nearest hospital free of charge. In addition, for the first 48 hours of treatment upon arrival at the hospital, the patient that is conveyed under the FEMSAS platform is not expected to pay a dime.
This is new to me because we only see of 911 in movies, and we didn't know that you could actually call an ambulance to your house, because that's what you've made.
Oh yes,
to your house.
Yes, the common number we have, the national emergency number we have in Nigeria is 112. Once you call 112 in any part of Nigeria, an ambulance will be dispatched if it is a medical emergency. The 112 number is for all kinds of emergencies: fire, theft, robbery, medical emergencies as well. But once you put a call, you'll be triaged. And if it's a medical emergency, an ambulance will be dispatched to your location. And if we are called in the FCT, Emergency Medical Service and Ambulance System, we'll dispatch an ambulance to the location, convey the patient to the nearest hospital, and then every service for the first 48 hours is free.
Wow. Who said Nigeria wouldn't get better?
I
We are
mean,
gradually getting there.
information is the challenge.
Yes,
most people are not aware.
yes.
And that's why you see people conveying their loved ones in cramped vehicles or using all forms of transportation, whilst an ambulance is waiting just at a phone call.
So that's a bit because of your office is why we started on
and
that.
I appreciate that.
With the hair on that footing. All right, we're talking about common diseases in Nigeria, understanding common diseases in Nigeria. I'd like to ask, what are the common diseases that is prevalent in Nigeria? What are we looking at?
In Nigeria, the common diseases that Nigerians normally experience is malaria and typhoid, and then some respiratory infections like pneumonia, and then the other non-communicable diseases like hypertension and diabetes. They're actually very common. It might interest you to know that for every 4 persons that comes down with malaria globally, 1 is a Nigerian, or 1 happens in Nigeria. Let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. So for every 4 reported case of malaria globally, 1 is reported in Nigeria. And of the number of deaths that was recorded globally, 32% of global deaths also occurs in Nigeria. That tells you that there's a high prevalence of malaria, in Nigeria. And of course, there's also a rising incidence of typhoid and other, waterborne diseases like cholera is also on the rise. And I must also say that as we're in the month of May now, we're approaching the rainy season, Lassa fever is also going to be on the increase. So we must be conscious and aware of these, conditions that are going to, be very common. In the rainy season, of course, we know that malaria becomes also very prevalent. People easily come down with malaria. Why? Because of stagnant water, that is everywhere in most communities. And then the crowded environments in which we live also, predispose us to malaria.
So basically, we have malaria, we have typhoid, and it's the rainy season. We're going to be seeing cases of Lassa fever. Lassa fever has always been, I understand, typhoid water, malaria, mosquito, Lassa fever. It's like a yearly occurrence. Once the season goes, it goes with Lassa fever. Why do we keep having it every rainy season?
It's also because of the habits that Nigerians have. Lassa fever doesn't necessarily have a particular season in which it becomes, endemic. But because we do not take precautionary measures, we find it occurring most times all through the year. It is only because more cases are reported, that's why we seem to have more incidents of Lassa fever. But, again, because if I'm trying to tie down to environmental factors relating to, rainy season, that during the dry season, there's so much bush burning. And so these rodents find their way into the community. And then also, when the rainy season now comes, if the combined with the prevalence of malaria, okay, we tend to really begin to see a lot of these diseases beginning to showcase in the clinic, and everybody now flows to the clinic with, all manner of illnesses that, are common. But I'm not going to say that Lassa fever is only common in the rainy season. It's basically all year round, because it's almost a disease that is home to Nigeria. It was first discovered in Nigeria. That Lassa is a place in Nigeria. That's why it got its name.
For Lassa, I think somewhere in where is it now? After Bauchi, we have Gombe.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So it's a Nigerian virus, okay, basically.
Okay. So let's talk about prevention and common misconceptions. Maybe we should talk about common misconceptions of these diseases that you outlined before we talk about prevention.
Okay, when you talk about misconceptions, there's this feeling that most people have, that every fever is malaria.
Okay.
So once you have a fever, you start treating for malaria. But fever is just a symptom of an underlying condition. Fever can happen because there's an infection. Fever can happen because there is typhoid. So it is not always malaria. So there's this, misconception that a lot of people have that once you have malaria, once you have fever rather, it is malaria that is being treated. And so they start treating for malaria. And this has actually led to a lot of damages to the healthcare system because it breeds resistance to the malaria treatment. So if you are treating what is not malaria with anti-malaria drugs, you are making any small presence of the malaria parasite in your system develop some level of resistance to that drug. And the same thing applies to other diseases that you're mistreating, in quotes. So that's one. Another misconception we have about healthcare generally is that unless it becomes an emergency, we don't come to the hospital.
We don't.
Yeah. So and that's a big
even
challenge.
People that are enlightened.
Oh yes, they don't come to the hospital except it becomes an emergency. Why is that? People misdiagnose on their own and then they start self-medicating. So if I have a headache, for instance, I go get some PCM. And I treat the headache for like 1 week consistently. I'm taking paracetamol for a headache that I do not know the root cause. But the rule of the thumb is that if there's a headache or a fever that does not abate in 48 hours, go and run a test. So we have so attached a lot of sentiments to healthcare that we do not, take proactive measures to prevent the disease from getting worse. And then another misconception I must also highlight is the fact that Nigerians believe so much in the supernatural that you forget that this whatever God has given us for us to take care of ourselves. And so somebody has an ailment, and then he is diagnosed or she is diagnosed or her child is diagnosed of a particular ailment, and then the next day, that is not my portion. You carry that child home and start praying and start, doing all sorts of, other, approaches to healthcare. And in the process, that condition actually becomes worse. So that by the time you return to the clinic, when you have tried all manner of, self-administered medication, you come back to the clinic, it's already in an advanced stage. And then you now make the healthcare system overburdened, such that the healthcare provider who would have just prescribed for you a few medications maybe some 6 months ago now has to engage in serious man hours to be able to tackle a small ailment that could have been treated very early. And it's at this point I would like to mention, both for the healthcare provider and for the patient, that actually prevention is cheaper than treatment.
Okay.
Prevention is a lot cheaper than treatment. So we must, imbibe that notion. And I must also mention this about misconception. The idea that except we go to a big hospital, we're not going to get treatment. So you have malaria. Instead of you to go to the nearest primary healthcare center to you, you are going to a specialist hospital to treat malaria. And so you're overburdening that system. There are scales, levels to healthcare. There's primary healthcare, secondary healthcare, and tertiary healthcare. There are some treatment that should not be happening at the tertiary healthcare center. It should be done at the primary healthcare level.
Okay, so can you give us simple tips to, prevent, because we've talked about misconceptions. Now let's go to prevention. Are there simple health tips that, we can practice every day to ensure that we don't come down with any of these common diseases?
One of the simplest I'm going to say, which is what, public healthcare, normally talk about, is simple hand washing. So I'm going to talk about three things, wash, boil, and cover. That's the wash, boil, and cover rule. Wash your hands. It's the cheapest way to prevent diseases. Wash your hand when you return from work or you return from an outing. Classically, make sure you practice hand washing under running water. Don't wash in a bowl because you're only going to, and somebody else comes to wash. Whether it's in a healthcare setting or even in your homes, just wash your hands after a day's activity, so you don't bring home, whatever you must have, outside. Second is to boil your water as often as possible. And when I also talk about wash, I mean even the food you are going to eat, the fruits you are going to take, simple washing, will also help to prevent a lot of diseases, as a matter of fact, especially the waterborne diseases or the foodborne diseases as well. So you must wash your fruits, wash your vegetables, wash everything before you consume, and then boil your water. I know that there's so much talk about, sachet water or what we normally call pure water. Now, you cannot, it's difficult these days to trust, the, 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 the safety of such, water. So the rule of the thumb is to boil your water, and make sure that you see bubbles coming out when you boil. It's not that you just steamed it a little bit. Boil it. Once you boil it and you cover it, allow it to cool, then you can be sure you're drinking healthy, clean water. Treat such water as sterilized water. Any water you have boiled, treat it as sterilized water. Don't dip something else into it before taking. When you want to take any amount of liquid from that container, either taking it from a tap or you're pouring into another container. Don't dip something else into it and then scoop to drink. And then finally, I will talk about cover. Cover your food, whether it is the one that you are drying outside. Make sure it is covered. And the food that you have in the house or in the home, ensure that it is covered to prevent flies or other insects from coming into contact with it. Such simple things can generally help. And then another thing I would like to talk about is your lifestyle. As much as we can, let us ensure that we do some very simple exercise in a day. If you can do 30 minutes of brisk walk, it helps to prevent or reduce the incidence of hypertension and to a certain extent, diabetes. Now, the danger here is that most people who have the hypertension are not even aware. 50% of adults who have hypertension do not know. So they are walking around with, this disease condition. And so it is what we call the silent killer. Sometimes there are no symptoms. By the time you start manifesting symptoms of hypertension, disease has progressed, really far. And I also want to make this point when it comes to, malaria. So many Nigerians are carriers of malaria parasite, but they don't fall sick with malaria. So they become a reservoir for the malaria parasite to continue to propagate itself. So you see somebody who is hale and hearty, walking around. There's no symptom of malaria in him or her. But that person is carrying a lot of malaria parasite. And once mosquito bites that person and gets in contact with that person, it's going to transmit this parasite from this normal reservoir to somebody who is not, a carrier, but is going to come down with malaria. So it's important that
we have so much to talk about on this topic, but our time is fast spent. But before we go, there's this thing I see Nigerians doing now. I don't know if it's good or if it can be merged with medicine. The how do I call it now? Your type of medicine. I wanted to say the white man, but no, what you practice. People are going back to taking natural things, garlic, turmeric, all of those things, for illnesses. Is there a way, is it proper? And if it is proper, is there a way we can merge the two so that we can become a healthier nation? In very few words, that way.
Oh, yes. In short, in the Federal Ministry of Health, there's what is called Tradomedicine Department, if I can put it that way, that is also trying to encourage the use of traditional medicines. So Nigeria is not discounting the prevalence or the potency of nature in terms of treatment. So they have their values. Take, for instance, Zobo has been proven scientifically to be able to reduce blood pressure. And Zobo is just a leaf.
Yes.
So it has there are some good components in that which we must also be able to encourage. All the turmeric, the garlic, they have their usefulness, but they should not be abused. But you only use to treat the conditions that have already been diagnosed completely. So you do not self-diagnose and say, okay, well, I have a headache, so let me go and take garlic.
And not knowing the root cause.
Not knowing the root cause, yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Uzi Okonoha. I hope I pronounced it well.
Well, I will let you go.
Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Abuja.
Thank you for having me this morning.
we've heard it all from the horse's mouth. I just wish that we had like the whole time to discuss common illnesses because, yeah, we're approaching the rainy season and you know what it happens during that time. Our hospitals become fuller. But thankfully, we've been told what to do to prevent common diseases during this season. All right, we'll take a break. The break would be a feature on International Museum Day. Let's watch that and then we're back in the studios.
Every year on May 18th, the world comes together to celebrate International Museum Day, a day dedicated to honoring the role museums play in preserving our shared history, culture, and identity. Organized by the International Council of Museums, this global event highlights the importance of museums as institutions that foster understanding, education, and peace among diverse communities. Museums are more than just buildings filled with old objects. They are living storytellers, guardians of our past. From ancient artifacts to modern art, museums capture the journey of humanity across time. Whether it's a historical museum, an art gallery, or a science center, each space offers a unique opportunity to learn, reflect, and connect with cultures beyond our own. For many, museums are places of discovery. Children experience wonder, students deepen their knowledge, and adults find inspiration. Museums create a bridge between generations, allowing stories to be passed down and kept alive. They also serve as educational hubs, supporting research, creativity, and critical thinking. In today's rapidly changing world, museums are evolving with technology. Many now offer virtual tours, interactive exhibits, and digital archives, making knowledge accessible to people everywhere. This transformation ensures that museums remain relevant, engaging, and inclusive in the digital age. International Museum Day also reminds us of the importance of cultural diversity. Museums showcase traditions, languages, and histories from across the globe, helping us appreciate both our differences and our shared humanity. They promote dialogue, tolerance, and respect values that are essential to building a peaceful world. So, today, whether you visit a museum in person or explore one online, take a moment to appreciate the stories they hold. Because museums are not just about the past, they are about understanding the present and shaping the future.
It's time for us to say our goodbyes on the program. As usual, I remain your host, the most, Day with Erese, and I'll always be here with my bestie.
Je m'appelle Oguntayo Olaniposi Justina.
Speaking French now, from Jordan to Sweden.
Adios.
Welcome back from that break. It's still Good Morning Abuja, and my guest, as I promised, is still in the studio. It's World Museum Day, so we've been having conversation around that. Welcome back from that break, sir. So we've spoken spoken almost about everything that has to do with art, museums, the artists. Now, before we went on that break, we had spoken about how most parents wouldn't even want their children to toe that part, and that is because they feel it's not a very marketable thing. Like, tell us about the marketability of art in Nigeria.
Okay, so I will also cite instances that are very practical. Like last year, I think we had an exhibition for a 15-year-old who is relatively young in the art. And then for just 2 days. So on the first day, and I remember very well, all of the pieces were mounted there in Lagos, and from 4 million to 6 million to, the lowest was 4 point something million.
For a 15-year-old?
Yes. So, and I'll say that within the first day and almost headed to the following day, all of the pieces were like sold apart from 2-3 pieces, and he had more than 15 pieces. So I want you to do the calculation and see.
I'm already calculating.
Yeah, so
in my
you
head.
have somebody over 24 hours just with over 40 million naira. And that is devastating. Outstanding. And I know that silently too, because I have told some of the members, like when they go, you go to Transcorp Hilton and you go see exhibitions happening there. You go to other, galleries in the city here, go to Lagos, everywhere. There are artists that will not sell to you for less than 4 million naira for every piece. And they are too reluctant to paint in other pieces too. So if you look at that, that means that the person really making the money, who doesn't sweat too much, who is in the confines of his studio and painting, but is always hitting on his brain because he's researching and he's putting to canvas or onto his own potter's wheel experiences and results of researched work. These are the hardest workers in Nigeria, actually, trying to paint for you what ideas should have been, because potentially they won't tell you how to sort or solve issues that will become, problems tomorrow. They have been working on relieving historical issues and the rest. But by the way, if you go on the net, you know that African art is world's most sought after work today. And that means that it's a lot of money. Now, let's not look at it from the works that you paint. The textiles industry is has fast gone. Has even gone to start with. So now the only person keeping Nigeria's textiles alive is still the artists. So it's a lot of work for those that want to get, fully employed from that area. And now textiles, the usual factories that you used to see that span from like a whole football field before, where you have the looms and everything there, have been reduced to units of, say, maybe large format printing machines. So if you are a designer and you studied textiles in school, you will understand that with little money, you can start producing fabrics for people to wear. So that is what happens to that. And then if you see all of the large format printers and the rest there and the posters, when politics comes, the artist is making a lot of money because we are the ones that have turned to the main publicists ourselves. So when you go, you're talking about, say, the utensils that you use in your house, the furniture and everything. We're still behind all of those there unconsciously. I say, now for the beautification of ideas, interiors, and all of that, the interior whole system is part of art. So
I think all of us should just become artists.
I think all of us are artists. Only that
we're already artists.
We are artists.
But we do not know. Most of us don't know we are artists.
Yes, we only pretend like we have other professions. Because if you look at the laptop that anybody uses, that's designed from art. And then we try to make things, things very easy for the whole system. You go to the life support machines, you find that the hospitals, we design them. So we have been doing a lot to help mankind. So only that they reduced us to seeing, they even think that when you go to school to study art, you come and write sideboards at home. So, so it's just fine. Whatever you think of us is still fine. But we dress well, we talk well, we write well.
That's it. I think artists are one of our unsung heroes, actually, because wherever and whatever you do, the hands of an artist is, even the clothes we wear, as you mentioned.
We own everyone that you see.
Yes. I know that there are Nigerians that haven't visited a museum before, ever. Like they've never stepped, you would find such people. Why, if you were to address them, why should they? And what's in there for them?
Okay. Usually when I see two people fighting, I usually say they have not come into, say, connection with art. When I see them also at the top of their voices, I say they have not visited galleries, they have not visited museums. Those are places where you pour your energies at. And at most times, you see that people don't understand other themselves because they don't even understand the history of who, like say, the advents before even religion to Nigeria, even before the states being like partitioned, or even Nigeria or Africa getting partitioned like that. Look at Nok culture, for instance. You're talking about 3,000 years. Nobody ever perceived Nigeria and the rest there. So these are historical areas where you need to like learn and understand who you have been even before you started getting divided as one state that does not like the other state, or one religion that does not like the other one, or one political party that did not even like the systems of governance had been there. You only learn from those ones. I mean, you learn about those ones from the museums. Now, that aside also, look at Benin, for instance. We just think we talk about Benin art, Benin art. You're talking about, 1897, you're talking about centuries, where the present day, if you pick a piece there, you might not even find ancestors, or I'm sorry, so to say, on the lineage there, the great-grandchildren of those pieces there. But yet, in the ways that they adorned even the doors of the Oba's palace and the rest there, the whole of the structures, the walls of Benin, people need to like actually reimagine that and to understand. But I know that what will translate in the near future, or it's even happening, sorry, where you have the museum virtually, that the things that tell the story, thanks to AI and all of that, say, imaging, like bringing back to life so many of those things there. If you find people on the street who don't understand themselves or understand the cultural traditions of the African person, of the Nigerian especially, before we were Nigerians, we were Africans. And then some people say the name wasn't Africa, it was Akebulam, whatever you want to call it. But then deeply rooted, we are still that civilization that had even the whole stories of Egypt and all of that inside this continent. We are such great, humans. And so great that if we try to relive and stay away from those areas there, we will be losing a lot. So bringing art into this, it only means too that the perspectives to which we look at this. Every child that you give birth to tends to like draw, does everything. You give him, growing up, you're giving him messes your wall, so we say. So over the years, we have been able to translate that to meaningful ideas so people are able to get schooled doing those things.
Okay.
But interestingly, if you are not living with art, honestly, you have, body pressures come to you.
I'm very sure there's no way we wouldn't even live with art, because everything we do, from what you have said, is art. If you had that one message to give out there to our viewer who is watching, what would it be?
I would like to say that please get yourselves involved with the art. When you want to paint, please understand that peace reigns. If there was no peace from the beginning, you wouldn't be looking for peace at all. So let this translate beyond the borders of our own forests, villages, and everywhere. Wherever you are, just try to like let people know that growing up means that you have been able to identify that being matured is that you can paint colors of peace, uniting people through the things that your hands bring out. And that has been what art has always had. Let's put it in our homes. Let's also encourage the very younger ones to build themselves back better and let the nation Nigeria, because we believe in this nation state Nigeria as the ultimate unifier of everything. It's not just about football that we watch every time. It is about the things that we do, the next door neighbor to yourself, are so very important. Let's use art and promote peace continuously at the museums everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Abuja and sharing with us from your wealth of knowledge and experience. Thank you. All right. My guest has been Muhammad Suleiman, the President, Society for Nigerian Artists, and it is World Museum Day. Go out there, visit a museum, go to a gallery, do whatever, just, appreciate art and as I've learned today, I am an artist. Everyone is an artist. So let's enjoy the day. All right, Good Morning Abuja continues after this timeout.
It's time for us to say our goodbyes on the program. As usual, I remain your host, the most, on my day with Erese, and I'll always be here with my bestie.
Je m'appelle Oguntayo and I'm Percy Justina.
Speaking French now, from Jordan to Sweden.
Adios.
I don't know what it is, but she drives me crazy.
Marriage, a beautiful bond, but not without its battles. Behind every smile is a story. Behind every I do is a journey. Mr. and Mrs., the show that peels back the curtain on real relationships. No scripts, no filters, just truth.
I've become a better husband because I've learned a lot from the mistake of the past.
I had feelings, but I wanted to be sure.
Do I have to kneel down to marry a woman?
No, but just do the right.
Join us every week as we sit down with real couples to talk about the raw, the real, and the redemptive side of marriages. From newlyweds to seasoned partners of 40 years plus, no topic is off limits.
Have you ever been in love?
At the end of the year, he came to the village. I saw, oh, this is the brother I saw that time. He said, please, I want to marry you.
This is modern entertainment. It's an invitation to grow, to heal, and to love again. Mr. and Mrs. is about real love, real struggles, and real hope. Every couple has a story. What's yours? Join us on NTA Channel 5, the Unity Station, every Thursday at 7:30 p.m.
'Cause all of me loves all of you.
Welcome back from that break, and it's always a delight to be with my next guest. I will delay a little before telling you, so you keep, thinking who is going to come on air. All right, so we've had a lot of businesses in Nigeria go sore, not just in Nigeria, even in the global world. We have issues with, we know what's happening already. Okay, so you would hear, he's my brother, she's my brother, let's do business together. It will not go sour, now the same blood. And then before you know, there are issues everywhere. Well, I have someone in the studio who will do justice, who will tell you all you require to know, do business partnership with anyone you want in Nigeria, registration and all of that. I have in the studio the Global Director, Africa House, Engineer Abayomi Onosonya, who has been a regular guest and then left us, abandoned us, and he's now back on.
I didn't abandon you. It's just duty. When duty calls, you have to obey. So, but it's good to be back.
All right, we're excited to have you. I
It's a
know you know
pleasure.
that already.
Thank you so much. Absolutely.
It's always an interesting time.
Thank you
with
very much.
Now, in my opening, I spoke about business partnership. He's my brother, he's my sister, and then before you know it, a lot is happening. So why should we remove sentiments and relationship and all of that, even love sometimes, when it comes to business, and focus on what we're doing?
All right. Good morning, Abuja. Good morning, Nigeria. Thank you for having me. Like they say, you should always separate business from pleasure. And unfortunately, in Africa, this has been the issues, the major issue that we've been facing over the last century, I would say, because people often do business based on, oh, I know that person is my friend. Even amongst, like you said, amongst siblings, they'll say, oh, no problem. Oh, can you please give me 1 million naira, invest it in my business? I promise I'll give you 10%, this and that. And most of these so-called agreements are not documented. And most of these businesses often end in disaster because when the money starts flowing in, then the grammar will change. And then, or even when the business becomes very, very successful, the guy will say, oh, I made him, I gave him his first million and all that and all that. So a whole lot of issues surrounding not documenting business terms clearly. And I believe personally it's one of the reasons why our economy hasn't moved as fast as it ought to have gone, because I can tell you for free, a whole lot of Nigerians do actually have money. But the problem is they're afraid where to put their money. That's why some of them prefer either to leave it in the bank or they just bury it under their mattresses at home and say, you know what, I'm not investing. And this does not also absolve the diaspora also, because it happened to me also before, where they will tell you, you know what, uncle, there's this nice business investment in Nigeria, please send money. And the guy says, how much am I making? Oh, you'll be making 20% every two months. And the guy sends the money. And then 2 months will come, nothing will happen. And I think we need to do justice to this topic to understand how these things work, how to put your structure, a proper structure in place. Because even if the business doesn't go sour, what about the issue of legacy? You know, maybe we invested money together, maybe this year and the next 50 years, it's become a multi-trillion naira business. And then when we are gone, our children will say, no, it was my father who started. No, it wasn't your father. So all these issues really needs to be properly documented and explained. And I'm happy that we're going to be doing justice to that particular topic today. So there's a whole lot to talk. Believe me, there's talk about today. There's a whole lot. Yes.
So what exactly are the basics? What should I, if I want to do a business with Engineer Nosanya now? What are the basics? What should we first start to do?
And the first thing is you have to first outline the terms of agreement to say, you know what, okay, fine. In this business, we're going to be doing bakery for business, for example. And what are your roles? For example, okay, are you going to be the one managing this business? Are you going to be the one who will wake up 6 in the morning to go and meet the suppliers? Or you will be the silent partner who just brings the money and finance? And after that, the second thing you have to do is spell out the financial implications, both in investment and rewards, to say, you know what, okay, I'm bringing the capital, you are bringing your sweat, and the sweat also has to be quantified. No matter your contribution, everything has to be spelled out in naira and kobo. Don't say, oh, I'm bringing money, I'm just bringing my effort. I'm just the one going up and down. No, your going up and down has a value. So you must always put value to everything. Even you might even say, oh, you can use my house. I have a shop downstairs you can use. Quantify that also. Put it in naira and kobo so that once all this is clear, you'll be able to say, okay, fine. After having checked everything, Madam X is bringing 10 million naira worth of value. Mr. A is bringing 2 million naira worth in value. So you now know that, okay, this is the actual value. Then from there, you can now start building the agreement and the legal documents in order to be able to know who gets what and what. Those are the fundamental foundations.
So talking about legal documents now, what should we do? The legal structure and registrations, how should we go about it? Which one should we start with? You know, all of that.
All right. I mean, this is another mistake a lot of people make. People think, okay, we can just do business verbally and let's move on. No. Every business agreement, as long as it involves exchange of value, should be registered as a company. This is why we have the CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission. No matter how small you think the business is today, go and register it. Go and preferably if there are 2 or more people involved, register a limited liability company. Why? Because that spells out the number of shares the company is owning. You might even spell out the ownership structure and all that. But if you're doing an enterprise or a business name, it basically means it's a one-man business. And you're saying, okay, fine. Since you're the one running the business, you register it in your name. I'll just bring the money. The problem is when money comes into play and the business becomes successful, you can go to court and say, I own the business. And you walk away with nothing.
Because it's in my name.
It's in my name. People even make that mistake. Don't worry, put it in the name of your son. Don't worry, he's more educated than all of us. And then the son says, Daddy, uncles, I'm sorry, I own this business. A business worth 10 billion. So what do you do? So I'll say, if you have 2 or more people involved in the business, always register a limited liability company. And in some cases, by the way, it could be a joint venture between different companies. Maybe you have your company, I have my company, he has his own company. We will now say, you know what, let's do like a joint venture between the 3 companies or the 2 companies. So the structure depends on the size and on what you're trying to do. But generally, a limited liability company is what you should do. And to register it is not that expensive. You can go to CAC website, get it registered. I mean, within 1 or 2 days, you get the details and everything. So let everything be spelled out. And then the next thing you need to do then is you need to now get a lawyer involved. People will say, why do we need a lawyer? It's just a small business. No. Although the CAC document spells out a couple of things in terms of ownership structure, but it does not spell out the responsibilities of each party. to say, okay, director A is going to be responsible for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Director B will do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you will now say, because of your contribution, no matter the profit we make, this percentage goes to this guy, that percentage goes to this guy in terms of profitability. And also, maybe when we return from this break, which I think we're going to be going on shortly, we'll talk about the losses because people always think about profit, profit, profit.
I wish we were going on a break. We're actually rounding up because we do not have much time again. I wanted us to talk about common problems and how to avoid them, but probably we'll leave that for the next session, the next time you are here.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for educating us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Right.
Thank you.
It's been a great time, I tell you. Each time I have this particular guest, I am excited already because I know I am going to tap from his wealth of knowledge and experience. All right, we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, Good Morning Abuja continues.
Time for us to say our goodbyes on the program. As usual, I remain your host, the most Day with Erese, and I'll always be here with my bestie.
Je m'appelle Oguntayo Olaniposi Justina.
Speaking French now, from Jordan to Sweden.
Adios.
Welcome back from that break. Yes, it's still Good Morning Abuja. And you know that when it's Monday, we make money and save money for the rainy days. Now, money saving tips up next. Money saving tips there gone by. Yes, I actually saw a few tips that I'm willing to try. Maybe my money by next year or by the end of the year, I would be in millions. Who knows? All right, now what would the weather look like? I don't know. Let's find out together. And with that weather report, we come to the end of today's edition of Good Morning Abuja. I hope that you, our esteemed viewer, learned a thing or two because in the studio, I definitely did. I enjoyed the 3 conversations we had. And thank you, Engineer Abayomi. Thank you to the doctor, Dr. Ozi. Thank you also to Mohammed Suleiman, who spoke to us about World Museum Day. You made this show perfect. Thank you so much. Now, until we come your way again next time, this remains Good Morning Abuja, and I remain Pamela Zampara, wishing you a very fantastic day ahead.